DEFCON 3, I'm KT McFarland. Industry analysts increasingly believe Russian and Chinese state-backed cyber spies are behind the sophisticated digital attacks in recent years against U.S. government and defense industry targets, including the Pentagon. Well, now we have reports that Russian hackers have breached the White House computer system. Joining us to discuss is former NSA Inspector General Joel Brenner. He's also served as former head of U.S. counterintelligence. Thank you, Joel, for joining us. What's the story? Russians in the White House?
Well, all national leaders know that they're targets of espionage. There's nothing new in this at all. I think what's new in this is that the Russians have done it in a noisy way. They've done it in a way that lets us find that they've done it.
Deliberately.
Deliberately. I think, at NSA, they used to say, if we can see you, you're not that good. And the Russians are very good. If they're really trying to steal important information from the White House, they're into different networks than this particular unclassified one. What they've done now is call attention to the fact that we, the Russians, are now doing this to you. And they're calling attention to the fact that our networks are vulnerable. So the question in my mind is, why are the Russians now doing things in dramatic ways? In J.P. Morgan, for example, that was a Russian property, right? And now, in short order, they've done something at the White House. The news now, because we're here talking about it, is that the Russians are now attacking major targets in the public and private sector in the United States. There's a message there. Okay,
so in other words, they're trying to spook us, they're trying to intimidate us, or they're trying to say, you always thought it was the Chinese. Guess what? We're there too, and we're even better.
Well, those of us who are on the inside have known that for a long time. The Chinese have always been noisier than the Russians. They conduct espionage in a volume that has no parallel against both the public and private sector. The Russians are more selective. They're, in some respects, more professional. They're quieter. So when they do something that's noisier, they're telling us something.
And what are they telling us?
They're telling us that our infrastructure in our major institutions may be vulnerable, that if we don't be careful about the way we deal with them, there might be consequences. They're making us think hard about something that I believe we should have been paying much more attention to all along, and that is the vulnerability of our networks.
So in other words, they're almost like setting up a red line, saying if you do something to us in other geopolitical ways or economic ways, we've got the ability to take down your computer systems at the White House?
I think it would be better to say that that's what people are now having to think about. And the Russians are now having to, they're into the president's head, they're into all the decision makers' heads now. Could the Russians, are they ready to do something that might have severe economic consequences?
Are we doing the same thing back to them?
I'm not on the inside anymore, and I can't talk about offensive operations.
How about a good guess?
Let me just say that, as I began by saying, all national leaders are espionage targets. They all know that, and we're pretty good at this game, too.
So what should our public response be? If you're saying that's our private response, what's our public response?
Well, I think the lesson is not what to do about the Russians, but it's what to do about hardening our own networks.
Which is?
Well, I think that much of our critical infrastructure should never have been connected to the Internet. And it has no business being run on the same channel that your 16-year-old surfs the web on, looking at God knows what, you don't want to even think about it. That's the same channel that we're now running critical infrastructure on in many respects. And our infrastructure is simply not hardened enough. And there are too many companies, I don't want to say all of them, but too many companies that don't invest sufficiently and don't govern their own network usage really well.
So can we anticipate then that these cyber attacks continue and increase in the years to come?
Oh, yes. This is not new, KT, what's going on. What's new now is how much attention it's finally getting from the American public, and the fact that we're now seeing Russians making noise and telling us something. That's what's new.
All of a sudden in the headlines of the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and Washington Post, and here at Fox News. Joel, thanks a lot for joining us. Make sure to pick up his new book. It's called Glass Houses: Privacy, Secrecy, and Cyber Insecurity in a Transparent World by Dr. Joel Brenner. I'm KT McFarland for DEFCON 3. See you next time.